Next, much talked about generative AI transforming personalized customer and employee experience. And this is going to be a fireside chat. But before I go on and talk about people who are going to facilitate this and going to be talking about this, I want you to know that we have Microsoft stall just outside the conference area. And any of you guys building your technology, especially in the generative AI space, on the cloud, check out their Azure's cloud capabilities. As a startup founder, I could not have built my company in the last 3 years if I hadn't got the credits from Microsoft Azure. The burns are important at these times. We all need to be profitable. And these clouds go a long way. These cloud credits could be that transformation you're waiting for. Now, I would like to invite Ankit Khanna, who's the CPO at MakeMyTrip for the next session. And we are going to have Sangeeta Bavi with Ankit, who's the Executive Director, Digital Natives, Microsoft India. Can I have Ankit Khanna on the stage? We thank our gold partner, Microsoft, for their support, and we thank Nagaro, our co-partner, for their support. Welcome, Ankit. Welcome, Sangeeta. Over to you guys.
Thank you, and thank you, Thai Delhi, for putting together yet another really impactful India Internet Day. And thank you, Ankit, for
pleasure to be here.
Yeah, for having this conversation. Generative AI is like the in thing, and especially how it helps transform customer experiences is just amazing. But before we get started, we'll do a quick rapid fire with Ankit just to get warmed up, and then we will directly jump into the questions. So my first question, Ankit, to you is, which is your favorite travel destination and what is currently on your bucket list?
Yeah, my favorite one, I'll name two. In India, I've always loved traveling to Ladakh. It's always been a favorite. And outside India, it has to be Tuscany. I just love the old charm and the weather when I travel.
Super. I hope MakeMyTrip gives you free destination travels.
Actually, we don't. Probably that's why we end up making money also.
The next question, if MakeMyTrip had a theme song, what do you think it would be and why?
Yeah, this is my personal take. I think it has to be a song from an old movie, Zindagi Ek Safar Hai Suhana. And why I feel that if you go through the lyrics, it just celebrates life, ups and downs, and it treats life as a journey. And I think that's what we are trying to contribute to.
And so true. I mean, MakeMyTrip has been literally the poster child of all the startups. We have seen how you've set up the business, so it's fantastic. The next question basically is, what is all of us need that go-to stress activity, in our hectic lives. What is your go-to stress activity, Ankit?
For me, it's the binge watching on Netflix only. I love political dramas more than anything else.
Interesting. And if there is one thing that you could eliminate, one mundane task that you could eliminate from your day-to-day work, what would that be?
Though there are not many, but it's daily discussions, or very often in the week, we end up having conversations with tech on the delivery timelines. It's something I want to avoid, but don't end up avoiding.
Interesting. I hope there are some developers out here in the audience. So let's just jump into the conversation. The theme is generative AI and how it's helping transform customer experiences across the board, right? For me, one litmus test of whether a particular technology or a tool has become mainstream is, if my parents or grandparents ask me about that, and it literally happened the other day, I was asked at home, what is ChatGPT? So all of us know how mainstream it has become, and especially if you're a product manager and you're not thinking about generative AI, I'm sure everybody is thinking, going through FOMO. So what are you seeing, Ankit, as a product leader? How is generative AI transforming the travel tech industry, and what are some of the trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with generative AI, we have been able to do things which we were just dreaming of, or we were just contemplating that what is the right way to do it. the biggest advantage generative AI brings for a company like ours or any other company in the travel domain is the context which is outside the company. And then when you mix that context with the context you already have about the user, I think it creates a very, very powerful solution. So I think this is the premise of any use case of generative AI that we end up building. And as far as trend is concerned, I think the biggest one, which is going to pan out in the next 1 or 2 years for travel, is that if you look at any OTA or any vertical player in the travel domain, they are mostly used for booking, like consuming the end transaction. But travel is something which starts much before, like when in your house or for your business travel also, you end up discussing, you end up exploring. And that exploration right now happens in a very, very fragmented way on different platforms, whether it's Insta, YouTube, or blogs, or you end up, and if you're going to a destination which is very, very peculiar, then you need more research. I think one thing is going to happen is that this exploration probably will get much close to the booking experience. So it is not going to be disjointed that I have to explore somewhere else and then come to a platform like MakeMyTrip to consume the booking. I think it's going to be far more linked. The way we end up doing bookings is going to be a lot more conversational, uh, where like a lot of effort from the context player, which is us, and technology player like Microsoft will go hand in hand to create a unique experience.
Uh, Great point. Actually, as a user, I can tell you the biggest thing that I basically struggle with when I have to plan my vacation is, which places to select, what to do, and the kind of experiences and scenarios that Make My Trip is thinking of lighting up in the product is just fantastic. So, can you tell us a little bit about how did you start concepting and prioritizing these customer experiences using AI and generative AI, a combination of both?
I think the biggest change we have done, though we started a few months ago when all this came up, is more like hackathons internally, just to bring a lot of interest within the organization to make people creative, think creatively and think. But then we realized that we have to make generative AI as a mainstream within the company. So now within product and tech, it is followed more like a practice that everyone has to first apply their mind. I think what has changed also very for the good, that now people are also becoming creative, right? They themselves are coming up with use cases, but then as central leaders, we also end up driving more at a practice. So that's one. Second, I think a lot of internal training and talks we do where we brainstorm about generative AI, not purely from technology side only, but as well from the use case side, that what is possible and what is possibly we can do just to transform this experience. So as I was saying about exploration, right, there are different ways in which we can do, but what is the most relevant for us using the generative AI? I think that is how we have started now. And I genuinely believe that this is going to be a very, very long journey. It's not something that, okay, it happened 6 months ago and we have to do something right here and then. I think we have to make a good start, and which we have done, and then take it from here and build for a very, very long-term experience. And on the model side, on the AI side, anyway, the innovation is happening on its own. And we are right now focusing a lot more on text-based models, I think, but with voice being overlaid on it, with imagery being laid on it, I think you will see far more richer experience and experiences which we can only think of right now, but which will be possible as well.
That's great. In fact, you mentioned that you are thinking through almost like a 360 experience for your employees in terms of skilling, encouraging them to do hackathons. Are there any sort of interventions that you're also doing from a Make My Trip culture perspective in terms of thinking about AI across the board with the leadership team?
Actually, it has to be driven by leaders, right? And we take pride in sort of following this practice across the board. It's not that only the product and technology leadership has to take the lead, which is anyway the case. But whether it is marketing or HR for that matter, and I will give you two use cases as well, which we have done. Like in case of marketing, our entire CLM communications, which we send it to the consumer, and we are now going to be power that through generative AI and using the personal context, right? So, and this is the innovation which being led by product and tech, but obviously the thinking and the overall execution is with marketing. In HR, like every day, HR gets asked a similar question, right? About the medical claim policy, about the leave policy, about the dress code, about some medical issues or salary issues, right? This becomes very, very mundane. And using generative AI, like one of the developers in our company just took 2 weeks to build it for HR.
Brilliant. Maybe we should also talk to you a little bit about the Bing Chat Enterprise edition. But you rightly said that, there is a lot of innovation and creativity also required to light up the experiences, relevant experiences using AI. If you look back a little bit in history in terms of what technology has done, whether it is steam engines, electricity, automobiles, computing, or smartphones, these have been very foundational building blocks of humanity or modern civilization in some sense, right? If you look at AI specifically now, AI is definitely one of the most advanced technologies which can lead to good humanity. And what MakeMyTrip is doing for the Bharat bot, reaching out to the non-English speaking audiences, you are driving, in some way, you're making the technology a lot more inclusive for the Bharat part of India. Do you want to talk a little bit about that also,
Yeah,
Ankit?
sure. I think if you see travel as a use case, if you purely see from consumption or expense point of view, probably top 50 cities probably would cover majority. But when you want to penetrate in tier 2, tier 3 and beyond, where commerce has anyway gone in and then you have other digital mediums available, with travel we realize that the biggest hurdle is the complexity of buying a travel product. Because it involves a lot of decision making which the consumer has to do. Like we as a marketplace or a OTA can enable it, right? Can give you options, just make sure that the pricing is right, supply is right, post-sales experience is right. But ultimately the experience of buying that travel product is with the consumer, like which hotel to buy, what is your choice, like why do you want to stay, like what is the purpose of going to a particular place. And it becomes very, very complex for many people that we saw on the ground. So I don't think it was, for us, we felt that we have done many experiments and studies, that for us we felt that it's not going to be about making it only friction-free, like enabling payments or making post-sales better. And we were looking for a good experience which can have a combination of both V's, which is Vernac and video, Vernac and video, and also voice. So that's why this Vernac and voice combination that we have built to enable this completely voice-based buying experience for flights, and then we'll extend it to other line of businesses as well. It makes it easier, right, for the end user. It's more like conversational. I think if you think about before AI, I think it was disjointed. There were voice products available, there were translation products available, but there was no context, there was no interaction between the two. And anyway, I can't think of a very, very successful implementation of Vernac plus voice for a commerce-based product, like I've heard in India or outside India as well. So it provides an opportunity to build something using and make entire thing inclusive as well.
No, thanks for that. And that brings me to the next question, that the Bharat bot is currently running on Microsoft Azure OpenAI. So what was your and your team's experience in terms of just building this use case? Because it's not easy. I mean, there are so many different dialects of the Indian languages. Now you have the bot in Hindi, you're going across other Indian languages. So one, in terms of just building the scenario and then the experience using the AI technology. Can you share a little more about that as well?
I think here, I think we're still learning. And I'm very sure the Microsoft product also, with this team also, we work pretty much like a one team, right? Because it's a learning phase for everyone. And purely from this particular use case, a product point of view, the challenge is there. Like we have done Hindi and couple of more languages. Hindi, if pure Hindi, I think we are able to do. But as soon as you move to Hindi, which is closer to Bhojpuri, or you bring a dialect of Eastern UP, and if you go a little south, where people still speak Hindi, but in a very different dialect, and Hindi and English, it's really tough at times. But I think whatever we have seen that people want to talk very, very openly. They don't want to be bound by the way you want them to say certain thing. So I think this is a learning experience, and it has been good. But still, we are in early stage. We are seeing some exciting conversations happening. Like I can name 2 transactions which we saw where someone in UP bought like 10 tickets in one transaction, right? And this was his first transaction. We called the consumer later. It's like that consumer has bought this product for the first time online. Earlier, he used to say, I mean, his exact wording was, "पहले मुझे समझ में नहीं आता था कहाँ पे क्या click करना है." Now I was able to just talk and just get things done.
That's amazing. In fact, even we are seeing the kind of generative AI scenarios which are being adopted in, say, BFSI, e-commerce. There is an uptake in terms of either cross-sell or returning customers coming back. And in some of the modernizing contact center solutions, we are seeing roughly about a 30% reduction in the TAT, right? So those are some fantastic results. You mentioned earlier in terms of how you're driving the culture of AI in terms of encouraging employees, developers to do hackathons, training, everything. For us, what we are seeing is AI and the technology of AI is no longer a cost line because it can actually attribute to the top line, like you mentioned, UP consumer doing 10 transactions, right? But with using AI, it's not just about business. You also need to have a little bit flavor of creativity in terms of how do you create a disruptive or a very unique experience in your product? So apart from the hackathons and learning and everything that you're doing for employees, is there anything else that MakeMyTrip is doing so that the audience can learn for your employees, your product managers, your developers, anything special which makes them think about AI in literally everything that they do?
Like within the company, obviously, we let the people think creatively, right? One of the things that we do that when we do our quarterly roadmaps, this is all like it's been 2 quarters and this has been the theme, right? So it is earlier started with hackathons, but now it has become mainstream within the company. And like internally, we have a central pod which I lead along with my CTO, where we do a lot of brainstorming month on month just to make sure that we are driving the roadmap. But the good part is that people have accepted. I mean, the employees and especially the product folks, and they think more like enabling a fantastic experience, right? And it's a very collaborative effort that we are driving internally.
Amazing. No, thanks for that, Ankit. Maybe we can open for questions from the audience. If you have any questions in terms of how to use AI, you can hear from Ankit, who's a practitioner. Okay, looks like there are no questions. Any other maybe then closing remarks, Ankit, for the audience of how one should think if they are in early stages of their journey for adopting AI as product leaders? What are some of the 2 or 3 things that people should keep in mind?
I think the first one, every product or technology leader has to be hands-on with this technology, right? Because once you get closer to this technology, then you understand that what it can do and how it can do. Because I've seen that some people tend to want to take a leap and just go beyond what they know. But I think one need to deeply understand that how this thing exactly works and what can potentially do. That's number one. Number 2 is that you have to understand your product positioning and the problem you're trying to solve. Don't do it for the sake of doing it because it's still very, very early. I think if you follow these 2, I think, and apply your mind in the right, at the right point, I think should be okay.
Brilliant. And I'll just add one more thing to that is, it's very important as you start thinking about adopting AI, how do you also apply a framework of responsible and ethical AI as you stitch AI into your products. That would be my closing things. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thanks, Ankit. We thank our gold partner, Microsoft, for their support, and we thank Nagarro, our co-partner, for their support for this.